So what are those IT organizations doing? I accidentally, I think, overlap with the brocade picture, you know, this sort of before and after data center picture, right? The old data center looks something like that. The new data center, I bet when we tour it this afternoon, it'll look something like the picture on the right, maybe without the actual grass under the tiles. You're going to hear a lot today from a variety of speakers about how they're performing this little miracle. The miracle happens here, there, in the middle of these pictures. You're going to hear a lot of different tools and techniques. Let me just share with you a couple of things that our 500 companies around the world shared with us in terms of what are they doing to improve, in particular, data center energy efficiency. And we see a wide variety of energy efficiency initiatives. This is particularly focused on the data center here. A wide variety of data center energy efficiency efforts underway and planned over the next couple of years, in this case 2010, 2011. You see server virtualization and consolidation, the most common. That's the leftmost bar here, where roughly 2/3 of the companies tell us they have active virtualization and consolidation programs underway, as you heard from the brocade folks. Very common means of reducing the hardware footprint, energy footprint, cooling footprint within data centers. I wanted to point to the middle bar. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, fourth from the left there. Eliminate redundant applications. This is one that is a little bit non-intuitive. What's happening here is that IT organizations, particularly the application portfolio management function within those organizations, is taking a top-down approach to data center energy efficiency and saying, well, if we can reduce the number of applications that our data center is supporting, we can reduce the hardware footprint required to run those applications, and we can reduce the power and cooling footprint underneath that, and therefore hit the same kind of energy reduction, footprint reduction, cooling reduction kind of targets that we're setting for ourselves. So I just want to note this for you, encourage you to think about this as we go through the day, that it's not always just a bottoms-up process of how do we do air handling more efficiently. How do we do power distribution more efficiently? There's a top-down aspect to this as well. How do we reduce, consolidate, make more efficient the whole workload that we're asking our data center to work on? And we hear example after example from Sprint, the big US telco, for example, going from 8,000 applications down to 2,500 applications when they undertook a process of really looking at the portfolio they had within their data center and trying to prune that very aggressively. There's one other trend worth noting that is not on this picture, but I'll show you another picture from our survey, and that is outsourcing of corporate data centers. And in this case, the data I'm going to show you here is about their backup data centers. So the question is, how does your firm provision its backup data centers? And you see the most frequent answer is still at a site that we own. About 60% in North America and just under 60 among the responding companies in Europe say, oh, we do it ourselves. But look at how the numbers for colo, for shared infrastructure, for dedicated infrastructure at a service provider. This is hosting, colo, cloud service providers who companies are increasingly looking to, per this data, to supply their backup data center capabilities. Now, energy efficiency is not an explicit driver here, not an explicit reason for making that shift from an in-house to an outsourced data center. But we expect that to emerge over the next couple of years as an important differentiator for the outsourcing service providers and as an important selection criterion, an important customer requirement as they look at outsourcing providers over the next couple of years. What is that going to do to my energy bill? What is it going to do to my carbon footprint when I outsource from my in-house data center to prospectively to an out-of-house data center? Okay, so a very quick look at IT organizations stepping up to this exemplar role. How do we get to the next step, to the enabler position? It starts with reconceiving what we think of as a greener IT organization and greener IT processes and infrastructure. And we use this picture at Forrester to help sort of widen the aperture, literally, in terms of our clients thinking about what can the IT organization do. Those first two circles, the data center and facility, obviously the focus of today's event. The next ring out, the distributed IT infrastructure, where companies use as much and typically waste as much energy on their distributed IT infrastructure as they do in the data center. The PCs, the printers, the handhelds, the scanners, all the rest that's outside of that managed data center environment. Typically for companies, there's about a 50-50 mix there in terms of overall IT infrastructure energy consumption. So let's not forget about that part of the puzzle. But what I really want to focus on is the third ring. How can IT be a contributor to other business processes and to a corporate sustainability strategy? And then the fourth ring really is the role for all of us in the IT industry. How can IT be a contributor at the level of public infrastructure, of societal infrastructure in terms of building smarter grids, smarter cities, smarter transportation systems, and all the rest. So what can IT do to move to that enabler role? We think this is really part of a trend that we've watched at Forrester now for a number of years of IT organizations becoming more and more integrated, more and more embedded, if you like, in the company's operations overall, really breaking down the barriers between IT professionals, between IT organizations, and the rest of the business. And we see that happening in two different directions that I'll quickly illustrate for you. First of all, IT is becoming the training ground for business process leaders who move across the company. We're seeing this over and over again at our client companies. It's the training ground for the process and analytical skills that are demanded in all parts of the enterprise, in HR, in finance, in operations. So we're seeing IT people start to spread out across the organization, land in other parts of the organization, applying their analytic skills, their data management, data aggregation, data analyzing skills to other parts of the organization outside of the IT organization proper. Meanwhile, we're also seeing business leaders, folks from outside of IT, becoming increasingly involved in the speccing, in the design, in the selection, and even in the operation of IT systems. And again, forgive me for the eye chart here, but basically what I'm showing you is business responsibility or equal business and IT responsibility, the first two blue shades there, in activities like setting technology investment priorities, directly selecting vendor solutions, negotiating and managing with those IT vendors. So business people are increasingly have a role to play in speccing, requiring, budgeting for, selecting IT systems. So this cross-pollination, functional, organizational cross-pollination creates what we think are ripe conditions for partnerships between IT and other parts of the business to catalyze or accelerate corporate sustainability initiatives. A couple of quick examples. IT and procurement working together to put environmental criteria into their purchasing of IT systems. Here we see, again, respondents to our survey telling us that they are using green criteria, energy efficiency, recyclability, materials composition, and the like, including those kinds of environmental criteria in their IT purchasing decisions. And you see the numbers have gone from 25% up towards 60% over the last 3 years or so. So IT and procurement, a potentially powerful and per this data, increasing I was hoping that at some point during the presentation somebody was going to hold up the "Let It Go" sign, but that's one I actually want a copy of for meetings that I conduct in my office. Let it go, but maybe not. Okay, second example, IT and facilities partnering to implement what we call Enterprise Carbon and Energy Management, or ECEM systems. This is a picture of intelligent infrastructure that an increasing number of companies are putting in place to provide insight about energy consumption and carbon or GHG emissions across the company. So think of this pyramid here. The bottom layer, sense and monitor the role of the facilities organization. The middle layer, analytics of that data. Really the role of the IT organization. And then there's a governance layer up at the top that's essentially the top deck of the company, who is monitoring and making decisions, policy decisions, around energy consumption and carbon emissions. And there's also a reporting capability there, reporting out to various stakeholders, whether they be the CRC in the UK or the EPA in the United States, et cetera. And just to stay on this for one more second, we see implementation of these kinds of energy and carbon management software systems growing very rapidly over the next couple of years, from close to single digits, about 10% at the end of last year, growing by, about doubling over the next 2 years per our survey data. So this is a great example, we think, of IT and business process professionals getting together because it reaches across the whole business, because it involves a wide variety of stakeholders, because it requires new capabilities to collect, analyze, normalize, and report this kind of data. It's a perfect spot for IT to apply itself to become this enabler across the entire organization's operations, across every location, every business process, every employee within your organization.